Okay, everybody, Procreate Dreams has been out in the wild for a couple of months now, and it is amazing, especially when they make updates. It's like, yes, come on, I wanted that feature. So what I'm going to do in this video is introduce you to Procreate Dreams. I'm going to cover keyframe animation, I'm going to cover flipbook animation, which is frame-by-frame animation, and the performing mode, and we're going to combine them all to create a super sweet little animation. It's going to be really, really fun. Now, I'm using Procreate Dreams version 1.0.9. Yours may be a little bit later, a little bit better, which is fantastic. So some things may work a little bit differently. Okay, so this is Procreate Dreams. This is your theater where all of your movie files are. I'm going to go for the plus button, create a new movie. What I like to think of these things as are like starter files or templates. You can change them once you get into the project, but they're just really common sizes and frame rates. So here, if you tap on HD, maybe you see something like 4K. You can change the size. I'm going to go for HD, and then you tap on these three dots to change your frame rate and the duration. Frames per second, 24 is great, but you could even go down to custom or any one of these options. The duration, let's go for 10 seconds. If that doesn't update, just tap on those dots and you'll see that it has. Okay. I'm going to go and create an empty one. If you go for draw, you'll begin drawing a frame-by-frame or flipbook animation style animation right away. But let's go for empty. And straight away, you're like, whoa, there's like nothing here. Yeah, it's pretty sparse, but it's really cool. So this is your stage, this is your timeline, and these are your tools here. To get back to your theater, tap on these little squares or rectangles, and then just tap on your project file to open it up again. You tap on the title, all of your settings and preferences live here. If you go to properties, you can change the width and the height, the frames per second, the duration. It's really, really flexible. Okay, now let's begin by drawing a frame-by-frame animation. I'm going to go for a plus here. I'm going to add a new track. You may not be able to see it, but I get this like gray bar here. It's pretty dark. And then I'm going to tap on this button, which allows us to begin drawing. I'm going to change my color to a black. Let's go for a black here. You may be on disk. Just double tap at the bottom to get to black. Or maybe we can go for like a reddy kind of a color. It's probably easier to see on this dark background here. And then our brush. I've imported these from Procreate, which you can do. You just open it up on the side and drag it in. It's really, really cool, really, really handy. But if you don't want to do that, let's go up to drawing, and I'm going to select Blackburn because it's cool. And then our brush size on the left, our brush opacity, and then our undo buttons and redo buttons. If you don't see those, tap over here, go down to preferences and history. You'll see undo and redo buttons. But you can, if you do a bunch of drawing, just use a double finger tap and a redo 3-finger tap. You can also hold down your 2 fingers and that will undo everything really, really quickly, or hold down again, really, really quickly redo it. If you tap over here, you also have stored undo steps. So if you close the file and reopen it, it will store this amount of steps. You can store up to an infinite amount of history, which is amazing, but it means your file size will be huge. So 50, I found that really good. Okay, so let's undo and undo. Let's reduce the brush size a little bit. And here what I'm going to do is just draw a really little happy sun, like so. And then I need to create a new frame. And you'll be like, how do I do this? There are a few ways. So you see we've got this little sliver of content here. You can zoom in by using 3 fingers. This adjusts your time scale. And let's do that. If you're too lazy to do that, or you're clever, just double tap, and then it brings you into the zoomed up view. So here, if you've got your draw and paint mode selected, you'll see this little plus button. So just tap there, and you'll see that you've got onion skins, which you can access over here. You can hide it, and you can edit your onion skins backwards, forwards, frames, opacity, a bunch of different options. And then you also have your background color that you can change. And you can even have a transparent background, which means you can export images and bring them into Procreate or other apps for post-Procreate Dreams processing and editing. Super powerful. Okay, so let's draw another little face here. I'm just going for like a really wiggly kind of happy sun animation. Now, there's another way to do this. You can pull this down and you get this little flipbook guy here. And if you tap on the next frame, you'll then be able to create a new frame and draw on it and navigate between the different frames here. So let's draw another one. Okay. Fantastic. I really like 5-frame animations for some reason. I think it looks really good when it loops. So I'm going to tap here and either close there, or if you don't see that, you can just tap it to make it come up. You just pull down and it pops up. Well, your timeline pops up. Okay, let's play this. Like that's super fast. So I could change the frame rate in the settings, or what I could do is go for this timeline edit and basically change the frame rate in a fake sort of way. Tap on the edge of one of these, which normally you could tap on the edge and just make it longer. So you're increasing the amount of frames that this piece of content is on the timeline for. Or if you select them all, hold down, and if you hold down another finger on your timeline, then increases the duration of all of the ones that are selected. Pretty cool, right? Now I'm going to press play. Yeah, I think that's a lot better. Okay, next thing I want to do is create another track, and on this track I'm going to go into draw and paint mode and just do a couple of these little sun rays. Okay, something like that. Now I'm not going to make this frame by frame animation. I'm actually going to hold this down and make it go 10 frames, 5 frames times 2, like that. That looks pretty cool. And then I'm going to add a keyframe, which means I don't have to actually do frame by frame. So this little thing is called the playhead. I'm going to tap that. I'm going to go for move and then tap on move and scale. You might have seen a couple of options there. You'd be like, ooh, look at that. Not going to cover that in this video, but you can definitely play around. Okay, after 10 frames, what I want to do is I want this thing to rotate 360 degrees. So I could just tap that to add a keyframe, then tap on one of the little circles at the edges, and then you get this little noodle that you can then use to not scale but rotate. The noodle you don't need to use to actually scale, but I want to rotate, so I'm rotating. But I actually want to rotate this 360 degrees, and now I don't know how many degrees that is. So I'm going to tap on here and then change the rotate to 360 and go for a minus. And let's see what this looks like. Like that's just like really quick. So and it goes back there. Okay, so what we can do now is go back to our timeline edit, grab these frames and then group them, get out of our timeline edit and then duplicate, 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 and duplicate. Now, we've got a whole bunch, just over 2 seconds, and I'm going to group those, and then I'm going to increase the length of this animation. So that changed the length of the group and this piece of content because both were selected at the same time. So I'm just going to bring that back like so, and then tap on my keyframe and hold it down and move it over here. So, okay, so that looks a little bit better. Inside of this group, we have a bunch of groups that are exactly the same, that have basically 5 frames, but 10 frames with 5 pieces of content in them, and they're basically looping again and again and again and again. Now, this drawing, which is our rays, this is animating, but you may see that it has some kind of easing applied to it, and that is completely correct. So I'm going to tap or hold down on this keyframe track, set all easings, and change this to linear. And that looks a bunch better. What I'm going to do is increase this just by 1 frame and pull this out by 1 frame and then decrease that by 1 frame. This means it's going to animate, or should animate, seamlessly. Yeah, which it does. I like it. Okay, so now we have this like wiggly face and then these rays that go round and round and round, which is perfect. Now, what I want to do is I want to select both of these groups and then group them together. Fantastic. I'll hold down on this, rename it Happy Sun, and I can even give it, oh, it has to be yellow or orange or something, a label, which just makes it feel like super organized and official. Okay, so then I'm going to add another move and scale keyframe and another move and scale keyframe. Now we're going to do some performing, which is really cool. So what I could do is at the start, I could make this guy go from here and move all the way up here, and perhaps set an easing of ease in and ease out, which would look like that. If you want to preview your animation without all this stuff, just tap 4 fingers on the screen. Pretty cool. Or what we could do, I'm going to hold this down and say delete move and scale, is to go right over here, 1 frame, first frame, tap on this record button, which brings me into the performing mode. And you'll see that it says ready up here, this little flashing light. It just means it's ready for you. It's not recording at the moment. Only when you move does it record. Okay, so let's drag this guy up and you'll see that it's recording. Okay, that was a little bit budget. Not so good at performing here. Let's try it again. There we go. Now I've still got a bunch of other keyframes, so what we can do here is go in and delete them. Okay, let's play that. Let's see what it looks like. Kind of like a weird animation there. So I'll extend this, stop the performing, and let's have a look. Okay, you see that if I zoom in here, it's just going to play what is cropped on the timeline. So you can zoom in really close and it's just going to repeat, repeat, repeat. And if you zoom out all the way, there we go. If you are zoomed in really close, you can just flick this back and it zooms out and plays all the way from the beginning. It's really handy. Okay, so this looks pretty good at the moment. I like it. So what performing mode does is it puts keyframes there for you based on how you move your pencil. And when you are recording, you can also tap on this modify to do some motion filtering. The more you filter it, the less motion there is. The less you filter it, the more accurate it is to your pencil. Have a play with that. Okay, I'm going to press done there. So this is looking really good. This little guy is rising up. But now I want everything to be smaller. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just tap on this guy. And you might be like, oh, can I change the scale here? But if you change the scale here, then he's going to go from smaller to smaller, which is great. I was not expecting that. So if you hold down here and expand, move, and scale, you'll see that now there's X, Y. You've got your scale X, your scale Y, and you also have your rotation. And all of these can be animated separately. So what we did here was animate our X and our Y scale, or our horizontal and vertical scale. But in the beginning, if we had put a little bit of scale on, like that, well, here we go. Scale that up, or let's tap on that, and let's change this to 2, or let's change this one to 2 as well. Then, it would animate. But we didn't have these in the beginning, so we can just delete these. And now we have a really cool little sun. Now what's really cool about animating a group is inside here, let's hide these again or collapse them. we've got our drawing, we've got our group. I'm going to add a new track, drag this track above it, and I want to add a background here, so let's go for a yellow. So what I'm going to do is just do a little bit of drawing, maybe a little bit like outside the line, so it doesn't need to be perfect. And I'll create a new frame, like so, a new frame, like so. Okay, it's got 5 frames, which is perfect. I will then group those, put those at the end, and then I will duplicate it a couple of times. Although what we didn't do, doop, 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 is make these a little bit longer. So let's zoom in a little bit. All right. Now we can group them. Put them at the start and then duplicate, 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 and duplicate. Okay, I'm going to just crop this group again a little bit. And now what's really cool is that we didn't need to animate this. It just goes in with the group. Pretty cool, right? Next thing I want to do is select all of these and I will group them. Go to the beginning, and what we can do is add a new keyframe, but filter. There's all kinds of really cool ones, but I'm going to go for HSB, which is great. And then as it rises, add a new keyframe there. And then this particular one, let's delete it and go to the first one. I can't really see what I'm working with here, so I'm just going to go for draw and paint mode, so everything becomes white. And then I'll change the hue to a bit of a darker kind of a color. Something like that. Okay. Let's zoom out a little bit. Okay. So you can't really see it that well. So what I'll do is just move this over here and change this to a linear easing. There we go. So that is a very short overview of what Procreate Dreams is capable of. It is amazing. Like this just scratches the surface. In my 4-hour class, which is probably one of my longest classes, we cover everything, like the basics of animation. There's theory, there's storyboarding, there's adding sound, there's planning. Wow, there's a lot of stuff. Then we go over frame by frame animation. We go over keyframing, adding multiple types of keyframing. We go over grouping, we go over onion skinning, we go over performing mode in more details. There is tons of tips and tricks that I show you. There's also a whole lesson on gestures. And then we go into making our 5-scene animation with monsters and aliens and spaceships and rockets and sound effects and voiceovers and music. And I include all of the assets as well: brushes, colors, rockets. It's a lot of fun. So here's the introduction for that. If you're interested, tap on the link below. Do you want to learn how to animate and Procreate Dreams? Yes? Perfect. That's exactly what this class covers. Animation is fun. It attracts attention. It conveys what words and static images cannot. And Procreate Dreams makes creating advanced animations on your iPad super fun and super easy. I kicked this class off by showing you how to navigate Procreate Dreams and how to create basic animations. Then we jump into the class project. This is where you'll follow along and learn a ton about Procreate Dreams and about animation in general. We'll be creating a spaceship movie, complete with aliens and voiceovers and drama. The class will cover animation theory, planning and storyboarding, how to animate different parts of your movie, adding sound, creating scenes, holding viewers' attention, how to use Procreate together with Procreate Dreams, and a whole bunch of tips and tricks. My name is Rich Armstrong, aka Tap Tap Kaboom. Over 30,000 students have taken my Procreate animation class, and I've been animating since 2006. So, you're in good hands. I made this class for beginners, but if you know how to animate and you want to learn how Procreate Dreams works, by taking this class, you'll pick it up super quickly. So, are you ready to have fun? Do you want to learn how to animate in Procreate Dreams? And do you want to make an alien spaceship movie? Yes? Then come take this class.